What's up guys, SLOTH here, and we are doing the patch notes review for patch 3.23, which is the release patch of the new goddess Nike or Nike or whatever you want to call her, I don't care. When the patch is called Wings of Victory. The patch will be going live next Tuesday, as always. We today have November the 30th. And we're gonna start with a new god. Then we're going through the other changes real quick, and then we're going down to the balance changes as usual. Obviously showing you the god cards and stuff in between. We have the new god for the new god, which looks pretty cool. The hair looks a little weird in-game, I think, but overall the design is really cool. And we get right into the abilities. The abilities are kind of complex and a bit intertwined. We're going to skip from one to the other a little bit, but we're starting with the passive. Passive is basically, as it's been data mined, to victory. That's 3 goals for the team that the team can achieve to gain increased strength, and the team for that gets increased power up from 8% for the first goal to up to 12%, and movement speed from 3% up to 7%. And the goals are eliminate 10 guards as a team, eliminate 200 minions as a team, and at least 2 allied guards are level 20. As far as I know, you get the buff across the map, as far as I understand it. And as far as I understand it, you don't have to do the goals in the order that they are here, because otherwise you'd struggle really hard in games where you don't get 10 kills. But other than that, I think that is a very interesting passive. It sounds very, very strong, especially the movement speed part, but we'll figure out if it actually translates like that into the game. Then we will look at plan of action first, because kinda everything she has is based off plan of action. So Nike draws upon her vast battle experience to plan her next move. The passive is she gains HP 5 up to 30, which I think is quite a lot in a laning phase. It's quite strong. And at the same time, her next ability gains bonus damage up to 60 and a special effect. Has a relatively long cooldown, starts at 18 and then goes down. But very interesting ability. Also, chat's going crazy because they think it's half a Tahuti. It is somewhat in terms of the extra power that you get, but at the same time you have to keep in mind that it doesn't have power of itself, so it's not quite as crazy as it sounds in this regard, but it's still a very strong passive. So, looking at the Rend here first. Rend is her first ability. Nike slams the ground twice, sending out fissures that deal damage, up to 190 plus 50% scaling. If a target is hit twice, the target loses protections, and that's up to 20. So that's a flat protection reduction for 5 seconds. If Nike's plan of action is active, Rend gains an additional attack. If the target is hit 3 times, the target is also disarmed. So what this means is she gets extra damage after the second hit due to the protection reduction, and the third hit gets that benefit from the protection reduction and also disarms on top of that. The swings are kind of like Amaterasu's ultimate, where you can re-aim between the different swings, but they're just line abilities instead of a cone. So very interesting. I think it will be very, very strong for lane clear, especially if you use it in combination with your 2. And I feel like it's what you're mainly going to use your 2 with, because it gives you most damage and all that stuff in that regard. Then we have the Valiant Leap. Nike leaps into the air, then crashes down at a location dealing damage up to 265 plus 6% scaling and knocks up enemies. Sounds better. That is in itself a really cool ability, I think, just due to the animation. She's like, it's a little slower than a leap. She just goes up first and then goes down. But still, you can aim it decently, and it's not completely telegraphed, I would say. If her 2 is active while doing it, she travels to the location much faster, so then it becomes more of a normal leaping speed. 18 seconds cooldown, so relatively long compared to the Rend. And as such, I think the plan of action, the 2 will mostly be used for the Rend. Or the ultimate, Sentinel of Zeus. Nike transforms into an armored sentinel and sends a shockwave that deals damage up to 360 plus 80% scaling, slows down the enemies around her by 30%. While in this form, she gains 40% of her maximum health as a shield. If Nike's plan of action is active, Nike gains 60% of her max health as a shield and applies a 60% slow. So this is pretty damn good, I would say. It's a very, very strong shield, and I feel like this shield may be nerfed before she even leaves PTS, because it basically takes away any purpose of targeting her unless she is very far behind and doesn't have much health. It makes it more beneficial to build some health on her as well. I kind of feel like she might be despite of all, like, her kit offers a lot of, in terms of defense, so you can just work with the HP 5 that Plan of Action offers you, but she can also kind of work with more health just to build up a stronger Sentinel, aside of the fact that she obviously has decent scalings for damage as well. If you slam with Rend 3 times, you get a total of 150% scaling, plus you get the 60% scaling on the 3, and you get 80% scaling on the ultimate. So overall, there's a pretty damn good amount of scaling here. Ultimate has a relatively long cooldown, which 100 second with a 100-second flat. And yeah, I think there's a lot to her kit. There's a lot of different interactions. And overall, I feel like she's going to be very strong. I have to test it on a PTS as usual. The numbers don't say everything. And her kit is kind of, well, there's nothing that's going to really surprise you. Yeah, you have to see when she uses her Plan of Action. But overall, it's mostly going to be the Rend. And you're going to try to avoid the Rend. And the Leap is just going to be the utility that she gets on top of that. The Sentinel is what she does in team fights. But especially with it passive, there's a lot of potential that can happen here. So that's Nike, and with that we're looking at some guard skins. Excuse me. We have her recolor right here, which I think is a bit meh compared to the normal one. Even in game it looks a bit weird, but whatever. Then we have the Anubis Tier 5. Anubis Tier 5 actually has multiple different stages. Unfortunately, we can only see one here in the patch notes. The other ones are basically a human form, a form that is somewhat similar to the normal Anubis, a form that's more of a demon spiky Anubis, and then we have this final form. Various different animations. It's worth looking into that and just looking at that and checking that out. Especially the last form has like a special effect where it can basically set the world around it on fire, and everyone on the map sees that, which is really cool. So I think this is a cool skin in that regard. Overall, not my favorite theme. I don't like the development because a lot of the development is just more spikes. But oh well. I just go through this real quick. We got the 4 unique models, 4 unique sounds of effects, visual effects as well, voice packs, which are I think kind of overlapping a little bit, custom recall effects, custom music pack, custom emote, which is the flames, and hidden features such as Final Form Ultimate, where you have that fire with the skybox as well. Kind of indicates to the enemy when you are using your ultimate, but you have to use your special emote in between as well to set the world on fire, so they don't know when your ult's down and when not. So that's that skin. Then we have, where are the voice pack here?
Nuk per amen ami ab. The ritual has begun.
A very loud voice pack, apparently. I just gonna check if she had one. Nope. Then we have Chilling Grasp Push. Clearly a Game of Thrones inspired, so that's cool. I like that a lot. Hope it doesn't get a copyright strike.
We will show them the meaning of fear. We will show them the meaning of winter.
You get the reference. Then we have Jurassic Camazotz. Not my favorite skin, but it's not. I think it wasn't really finished yet. There's some sound effects that are still from the default skin, which I feel like might be changed. No voice pack either so far. And we have Baku's mastery skins, which I think look really cool actually. So yeah. The Khepri dance emote. We have the final content for the Odyssey. We have item changes. And this is where things get interesting. Celestial Legion Helm gets a nerf. Terran protection is down. 100 gold up in price. This is because at this point you had people buying Celestial Legion Helm instead of Dynasty Playtime relatively early into the game, because you can just buy the tier 2 and just work your way up, and it is really strong against certain guards. For example, those like that rely on a few crits to kill you. It's strong against Mercury, it's strong against Sunbats. A very good counter item overall, and also obviously strong against Hunters. So that nerf is very justified, and I think it's good. Hydra Star. I cry. Reduced cooldown reduction from 10% to 5%. Hydra Star was not changed for I don't know how long. Forever. And it was good in the place it was. It was a very good item for 1,000 gold. Now it is significantly worse compared to before, because that cooldown reduction really made it so nice early. But, well, Hydra's Lament gets a nerf on top of that. Cooldown reduction reduced from 15% to 10%. I cry a lot, because I really like this item, and I really like the attack cancel interaction. I feel like, even though it sounds like a very small change, this is going to push Hydra's Lament back a fair bit compared to Jones' Wrath. I feel like you could still buy Hydra's Lament after Jotun's Wrath on certain characters like Moonbats. And the mana regeneration is still strong. But I feel like with only 10% cooldown reduction, I'm not sure if it can be justified as a secondary item. I might be wrong here, obviously, but I feel like it's taken a lot of the potential in competition with Jones Wrath, and I think that's really sad because Jones Wrath it's been there for 3 seasons, and it was really nice to see some changes side of Void Shield with Hydra's Lament, and now, well, yeah, rip that. Another nerf is Obsidian Shard, and that's a big question mark to me. I don't even play mages much, but I don't know why Obsidian Shard needed a nerf. I'm not gonna read this out because it's so weird. Mages actually have a very strong penetration option in Spear of the Magus, but for most of the season it was overshadowed by Obsidian Shard. The raw power in Shard is being brought down a little to bring the items more in line with each other and encourage a better situational building. But that's not true. Because Spear of the Magus is not a very strong penetration option, it's a flat penetration option, and you're looking for percentage penetration to counter heavy magical defense build. Otherwise, you can just go for Pen Boots and go for Dynasty Plate Helm, have your flat penetration and be happy. You don't need more than that. You need items that counter enemies that build magical defense. And that's Obsidian Shard, because they took away the percentage value from Spear of the Magus, because it was too strong. And instead of putting a little bit of the percentage value back onto Spear of the Magus, they're nerfing Obsidian Shard, and that doesn't make sense. All I can say about this. And it's funny because we're seeing some warrior buffs this patch, so yeah, that's nerf penetration items, because that makes sense. God changes. Erlang Shen. Erlang Shen, I'm going to read this out as well because it doesn't make too much sense. Erlang Shen has been a strong force in the competitive scene. One of his major strengths has been his ability to be offensive with spot weakness and defensive with his turtle form and his ultimate. We're removing some of his free offensive power by removing the Fatalis effect from spot weakness and moving it to the Mink of 70 transformations. Now, the form Erlang Shen chooses will have a bigger impact on his playstyle. Spot weakness no longer ignores basic attack movement penalty. 72 transformation gets the same effect instead, only in the Mink form. And the buff duration for the shield and the attack speed is down from 6 seconds to 5 seconds. The only real nerf I'm seeing here in 90% of the cases is the cooldown, the duration decreased by 1 second, which is really not that major. I mean, 1 second, come on. The part here that, what you have to keep in mind that applies for the attack speed penalty movement as well. So what you have to keep in mind here is that the Mink form is inherently much stronger than the turtle form. You use the Mink form to clear and lane aggressively. You use the Mink form to go into fights. You use the Mink form for everything when it comes to trying to box someone down. What you're using the turtle form is to lock down targets with your knock up. If you're not using it to escape, obviously. But if you're using it to escape, it doesn't really matter. Then you're not going to care if you have a hasten fatalis effect or not, because you're not going to basic attack. So where this matters is if you're looking for a lockdown for your team with the turtle form, and then you don't get the movement penalty afterwards. But if you look, let's just play the scenario out. If you're looking for lockdown with for your team, that means you're going into a target expecting that you don't have to deal that much damage, because you're giving up the damage from the Mink form, which is more, and the attack speed steroid, just to knock up a target. That means you're expecting, for example, a Poseidon ultimate or an Isis ultimate. So you're like, this target is going to get blown up the moment that I knock it up. And if that's the case, then why would you need the attack speed steroid? Then why would you need the basic attack movement penalty? That target is not going to have much time to run away, because otherwise you would not have used the turtle form. If the target has a chance to run away, you would have used the Mink form and tried to stick to them beforehand already. You would have used the Mink form and then gone onto them with spot weakness and deal a lot more damage to them, because you're beating them down while they're running away. So the scenarios where this actually does make any relevant difference, I think, are very, very limited. They happen when you're like mid-team fight and then you just turn on your spot weakness or some shit like that. But really, for the solo lane itself, for example, it's not going to matter. It's going to be the opposite, because people use the Mink to clear, and then they can go aggressively into you right after that, because they already have that Fatalis buff anyways, with no extra mana cost. They don't even need to use spot weakness for that. So, not a nerf in that regard, I think. Sure, no, it is a nerf. It is a nerf. Let me rephrase this. It's a nerf, but it's not a nerf that's going to put Erlang Shen anywhere lower compared to where he is. He's still going to be very, very strong, both in support and in solo. Hades. Hades gets buffs all around the board, all across the board. Nice. Light duration, so his passive effect, increased from 5 seconds to 8 seconds. Makes it a lot easier to use your abilities on enemies. Shroud of Darkness no longer knocks back minions. makes it easier to clear. If you like, you know, use it in the wave or stuff like that. So this is a little comfortable. And then Pillar of Agony. I think this is actually probably the biggest change. Increased protection from 40 at rank 1 to 60 at rank 1. Still going up to 80, so just stacking up by 5. But that means on earlier ranks, you're not just going to blow him up when he ults, because he's going to be tanky. He's going to be very tanky. He may actually not have to level his ultimate, actually, when you think about it. It's just 5 protections each. Well, for the damage still, but yeah, and that just for the protection, but he wouldn't have to. So, yeah, good buffs. Doubt it will make him like high level, high tier, because still has like to misposition himself more than other mages, and that's still a problem. But a welcome change. Jingwei. Iris does not want to touch her passive. She does not want to touch him. She just needs that passive probably. But they're nerfing in other places, which I guess is fine. If you really don't want to touch a passive, I think it would still be unique if it has like a 100-second cooldown. It would still be a unique passive, but okay, never mind. So, instead, we're nerfing explosive balls, which I think is a good change. Rank 1 of explosive balls no longer gives you crit chance. No random crits early on. You're just going to be like everyone else, so you need at least 2 points in that for it to give you that crit chance. And while you're not like, you're never going to level it last or anything, I still see how it's a bit of a nerf. And the more significant nerf is probably not explosive bolts, but actually her escape, which gets an increased cooldown, not a reduced cooldown. Instead of going down to 12 seconds, it goes down to 16 seconds. It still stays at 20 at max ranks, but 16 seconds is a much, well, you have to be a lot more careful with that kind of escape. And that's significant also for knockups and stuff, where she would usually just get out. So, in that regard, it's good. Good nerf to Jingwei, I think. Even though I'd rather just see the passive nerf and otherwise untouched, whatever. Khepri has been underperforming a little bit, so he gets a buff. 30 health, level 1. Yo. I don't think that's too bad. I know we had Khepri like being high tiered until he had the nerf, but there are other supports that are just dominating at the moment. Khepri's not like that scary, but he's still a nice support. I think he's in a good place at this point. So I'm fine with that. Nox Flame of the Night, so the passive will only be blown out by god damage. I think that's fine. Not gonna break her or anything. Just a nice little quality of life mostly, but quality of gameplay as well. And Osiris. Fragmented now provides Osiris with 1% magical damage mitigation per stack. Before he had only the physical, which was 2%, if I recall correctly. Now he gets the magical on top of that. I think it's good. I think Osiris doesn't really need buffs. It's rather other solo lane bullies that need nerfs. But I see that especially with all these guardians coming into solo lane, Osiris does need some buffs. So I'm cool with that. Terra. Terra was still overperforming, so she gets a nerf. Ultimate now 110 seconds cooldown at all ranks. Good. So I like it. That's a good nerf. I'm gonna put it down a little further. She is still very high tier. I did expect her to go lower after her obelisk nerf. She did not go as low. People don't like to attack that thing. It takes too long. And there's there's still too much out of combat healing going on inside of it anyways. So nerfing the ultimate, touching another point. Good. 12th. I literally don't know what one of these changes is supposed to mean. And that's the second one. First one, Hieroglyphic Assault, projectile speed increased by 20. I don't know if he really needs that. I felt like he was good, but oh well. Second one is what I don't understand. Evade and Punish, increased radius from 3 to 4 seconds. What? And they didn't even clear it up in the patch notes. So, I don't know. I don't know what the hell what? And yeah, well, and then we have Glyph of Pain, also getting reduced mana cost from 60 at all ranks to 25 up to 45. So this guy has like I don't think he needed any more nerfs. I think it was already good when his escape cooldown was lowered. But like what? It's just weird. It's just weird. And now for my favorite part of this patch. Freya is still not nerfed. Did you realize that Freya is still not nerfed? Just kidding. It's not my favorite part of this patch. Favorite part of this patch is this. Tyr is ready to bring down the law. Change stance will now work in the same manner as Hal and Ulla's stance switch, letting him use this at level 1. Tyr players will now have more tools to work with in the first few levels without needing to sacrifice a skill point, opening him up for a little more options. Change stance. This ability Change stance. This ability triggers the shit out of me. Change stance. This ability Change stance. This ability may be activated at rank 0. Rank 0 of this ability provides no passive benefits. There's a question mark behind it. I will just use my mouse. Like usually when you go over a question mark and some shit, you just there's some additional info to it. Oh, there's a black bar at the bottom. You see that? Yeah, there's a black bar. I think this is some Hydra employee who just like wrote in like really small letters, just like pranked, bro. I'm calm already. I'm calm. I've had my fair share of salt. I've timed people out for tier puns. So I'm gonna address this as rationally as possible. We have looked through some abilities compared to Tyr. And now, if you play Tyr for a bit, you know that on level 1 you level up as 2, not as 1. Because otherwise you're going to push the targets away from your ally, you're going to you miss out on basics. You're basically going to delay one of your basics for the extra damage, so you level the 2, right? The 2 does 80 damage per swing. You can now use 2 swings on level 1. That's a total of 160 flat damage. We looked through a lot of guards, not all of them, but a lot of guards, other warriors, no one came close. Looked through other rolls, we found 2 guards. Anubis deals 210 damage over the course of 3 seconds in a cone. Now Anubis does deal more damage that way. If you think about it, it's AoE damage. So if there was targets that survived for 3 seconds, then he would do a little more damage to those targets. Tyr, on the other hand, has an attack speed of 1, and I think he does roughly like 35 damage, roughly, very roughly. So it's like 105 extra damage from basic attacks in those 3 seconds that he doesn't have to channel. He can just use abilities and attack cancel. So he would end up around, 265 damage on a single target and 160 on 2 smaller targets. So Tyr does more damage on a single target than Anubis on level 1. He also does similar damage to Serket. Serket does 180 damage with her 1, which you can land on all creeps if you want to, if you place yourself right. So this is a lot of damage from Serket. Serket is one of the highest burst assassins on a single target, and her 1 on multiple targets as well, depending on how you place yourself. And Tyr is in the same class as those. Tyr is in the same class as a stationary high burst mage and a high single target damage mobility assassin in terms of his level 1 damage for clearing. The only downside that he has to that is his mana cost. He doesn't have much mana on level 1, so you might want to get an extra mana potion. And then you just use both your abilities on both camps. And then you go to lane and show your enemy the middle finger, because you already had a clear advantage of I don't know how fucking much at that point. Then you go into lane and you still have both your abilities. You also have both forms of your 1 the moment you go into lane, because you have that stance swap. So you definitely gonna outclear your enemies no matter what. You have 3 elementals, and now you have lane lead. And you can just run around and clap a little bit or some shit. Oh wait, he just has 1 hand, fuck that. And that's Tyr now. And I don't know how anyone thought that was okay. Because he doesn't even need to level his change stance until much, much later, which he would usually do on level 3 or whatever. He can just keep on going, leveling the damaging abilities, and level it much, much later when he thinks I need defense and shit now. He will still get the healing, he will still get the extra damage, he will still get the knockback, he will still get everything. And if this change leaves PTS, I don't know who the fuck was smoking crack over there, but somebody was. If you fucking grind Mannequin Scepter to little bits and snort it up your nose, that's what you get with Tyr now. That's my conclusion of the patch notes. I'm hyped for Nike, whatever you want to call her. I'm not hyped for that bullshit. Thank you guys for watching. See you all for some PTS gameplay later, hopefully. SLOTH. Out.